Welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about backup offers in McHenry's real estate market. And for that, we're joined by insights from Realtor Michael Linton. He's got decades experience in this very specific market, and his articles can be found at McHenryAgent.com.
Yeah, what's great about this is we're getting like a really localized perspective.
Yeah.
McHenry's market, it's got its own, quirks and things. Understanding those nuances can be really, really valuable whether you're buying or selling.
Now, let's talk about backup offers. Why are these so important, especially, in a market as competitive as McHenry?
So imagine you found the perfect house in McHenry. It's got everything you want, the right number of bedrooms, a nice big yard, maybe even that cozy fireplace you've always wanted. You're ready to put an offer in, but then someone else comes along and does the same thing. In a hot market like McHenry's, that's not uncommon at all. Let's say the seller accepts their offer. Now you're sitting there thinking, what if I had done something different?
That's where the backup offer comes in, right?
Sure.
It gives you that second chance to get your foot in the door.
Exactly. You got it. A backup offer is basically an offer that gets put in on a property that already has an accepted offer. It's like saying, hey, if that first deal doesn't work out for whatever reason, I'm here ready to step in.
So almost like an insurance policy for both the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. For buyers, it gives peace of mind knowing they haven't totally missed out. And for the sellers, it's that reassurance that they've got someone else interested if something goes wrong with the original deal.
Now, Michael Linton has pointed out that McHenry's market is especially competitive right now. What's driving that?
Well, McHenry offers a really interesting mix. You get that kind of suburban life, but you're still close enough to the city. It attracts families, young professionals, people who just kind of want a change of pace. What we're seeing, though, is that there just aren't enough houses for everyone who wants to live there. Low inventory and high demand. It's a recipe for a really competitive market. Houses sell fast, sometimes even for more than the asking price.
So in that kind of a market, a backup offer can really change the game.
Oh, absolutely. It gives buyers a way to stay in the running, even if they weren't the first to make an offer. And for sellers, it can kind of light a fire under that first buyer. They know there's someone else waiting in the wings.
Let's say you've made a backup offer and that first deal falls apart. What happens then?
Well, most deals have contingencies. Things that have to happen for the offer to go through. Things like getting financing done, inspections, appraisals, that kind of thing. If any of those contingencies don't work out, the whole deal can fall apart. That's where your backup offer steps in.
So it's more than just waiting and hoping for the best. You need to be ready to jump in if things don't go as planned with that initial offer.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to have a strong backup offer, one that's well thought out.
Michael Linton really emphasizes the need to be strategic when you're putting together a backup offer. What does that mean specifically?
It's about understanding what the seller wants and needs, and then giving them an offer that really speaks to that. Put yourself in their shoes. They've already accepted an offer. What they're looking for now is certainty, a smooth transaction.
So it's not just about matching or going higher than the first offer. You need to offer something that makes sense on its own.
Exactly. For example, let's say the seller is really hoping for a quick closing. If you can be flexible with your own timeline and close quickly, that could make your backup offer much more appealing.
What else should buyers consider when they're putting together a backup offer?
One thing that can really help is to minimize those contingencies we talked about. For example, if you can waive the financing contingency, that shows the seller you're serious. You're not going to back out because you can't get a loan. It reduces the risk for them.
But waiving contingencies can be risky for the buyer too, can't it?
Absolutely. You have to weigh the potential benefits against the risks. That's why working with someone experienced like Michael Linton can be so valuable. He can help you understand the situation and make decisions that make sense for your goals.
So it's all about balance, giving a competitive offer but also protecting your own interest.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dance. But with the right help, you can definitely make it work.
Michael Linton also talks about the importance of working with a local expert. Why is that so critical in McHenry's market?
Every market's got its own personality. McHenry's no different. An experienced realtor like Michael Linton. He's got a deep understanding of how things work here. He knows the neighborhoods, the pricing trends, the things that buyers and sellers struggle with.
So it's like having someone in your corner who can see the potential problems and help you avoid them.
Exactly. They can be your advocate, your advisor, your guide through the whole process.
Now let's switch gears for a second and look at this from the seller's perspective. What's good about accepting a backup offer?
Well, for a seller, it's like a safety net. It's that peace of mind knowing that if the first deal goes south, they've got another buyer lined up. They don't have to start the whole process all over again.
It's a backup plan, so you're not left scrambling if things go wrong.
Yeah. Exactly. And in a market like McHenry where things move so fast, that can be a huge relief.
But some sellers might hesitate to accept a backup offer. They might worry about things getting too complicated or stressful.
That's understandable, but it's important to remember a backup offer doesn't have to turn things into a mess. It's just an agreement about what happens if the first deal falls through. Having that agreement in place can actually make things easier if those contingencies aren't met.
So it's about understanding what a backup offer really is and how it can be set up to benefit everyone.
Exactly. It's all about communication, being open and honest with each other, and making sure everyone's on the same page.
And again, this is where working with a local expert like Michael Linton can be so helpful.
Absolutely. He can help sellers with the legal stuff, the paperwork, all those details, make sure their interests are protected and everything goes smoothly.
So whether you're a buyer or a seller in McHenry's real estate market, understanding these backup offers is really important. Having an experienced realtor in your corner can make a huge difference.
I completely agree. It's about making smart decisions, understanding how the market works, and reaching your goals when it comes to buying or selling a house.
We've learned a lot today. Michael Linton's knowledge when it comes to McHenry real estate is impressive. And his website, McHenryAgent.com. It's a great resource for anyone who's thinking about buying or selling in this market.
It really is. It's a great place to start your research and learn more about how things work in McHenry.
This has been a fascinating look at backup offers in McHenry's real estate, but we're just scratching the surface.
We'll be right back after a short break to dive even deeper into how to craft those winning backup offers in this competitive market.
Welcome back. So we've been talking about backup offers, but it's super important to remember that everything we're discussing here is for informational purposes only. When it comes to actually making decisions about buying or selling a house, you really need to talk to the professionals, people like real estate attorneys, people with that legal expertise. Absolutely. This is all about giving you the knowledge to make informed decisions. It's not a replacement for professional advice. Now let's get back to Michael Linton and his strategies for making those winning backup offers. He suggests thinking beyond just the offer price.
Right. You're not just trying to outbid the other offer. You're trying to make your offer more attractive to the seller overall. Imagine for a second that the first buyer, they offered a bit more money, but they have a contingency in their offer. They have to sell their current house first.
Okay. And that could cause delays for the seller, especially in a market as fast-paced as McHenry.
Exactly. So let's say you can waive that financing contingency and you can offer a faster closing. Your backup offer might suddenly look much better, even if the price isn't quite as high.
So you're offering something that's more predictable, a smoother path to closing.
Exactly. And that can be really appealing to a seller, especially if they're in a hurry or maybe they've already found their next place.
Michael Linton also talks about earnest money deposits. Can you explain a bit more about those?
Sure. So an earnest money deposit, it's basically a good faith payment. You're showing the seller you're serious about buying the house. It usually gets held in escrow until the deal closes. What Michael Linton suggests is that you think about offering a slightly bigger earnest money deposit with your backup offer.
Why would you do that?
It shows the seller that you're really committed. You're putting more skin in the game, so to speak.
Yeah, I can see how that would make the seller feel more confident. But what about the buyer? Isn't it risky to put down more money up front?
Of course, there's always some risk. But Michael Linton really stresses the importance of having a clear contract, one that lays out exactly when and how you would get that earnest money back.
So it's about having those protections built in to make sure the buyer isn't taken advantage of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For instance, the contract should say very clearly that if that first offer goes through and the house is sold, your earnest money gets returned to you. No questions asked.
That makes sense. Now let's talk about those contingencies. We know that minimizing them can make your offer stronger. But how far should you go?
It's a tough question. You want to make a good offer, but you don't want to put yourself at risk. For example, waiving the inspection contingency entirely. That could be a really bad idea, especially if you're buying an older house.
You don't want to find out later that there are all sorts of hidden problems.
Right. Instead of waiving it completely,
Yeah.
maybe you limit the scope of the inspection, or you offer a shorter inspection period.
So you're finding that middle ground. You're making the offer attractive, but you're still protecting yourself.
Exactly. And that's where working with an experienced realtor can really pay off. They can help you figure out what makes the most sense in your specific situation.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the buyer side. What about the seller? What should they think about when it comes to backup offers?
Backup offers, they're like an insurance policy for the seller. It gives them peace of mind knowing that if the first deal doesn't work out, they've got someone else ready to step in. But there are a few things sellers should keep in mind.
Like,
Well, first off, communication is key. They need to make sure everyone's on the same page. Both the first buyer and the backup buyer need to understand what's going on and what the terms are.
so being transparent and upfront can prevent a lot of headaches later on.
Exactly. And second, sellers, they need to really look at the terms of each backup offer. Just like with the first offer, they should think about the price, the contingencies, the closing date, all those factors.
So don't just accept the first backup offer that comes along.
Yeah.
You've got to choose the one that works best for you.
Exactly. Now, here's an interesting point that Michael Linton makes. A backup offer can sometimes actually push the first buyer to move faster.
How so?
Well, if the first buyer knows there's someone else waiting in the wings, it might give them that extra motivation to get things done. Finalize their financing, take care of any outstanding issues.
So a backup offer could actually speed up the whole process.
It can, especially if that first buyer was dragging their feet or having second thoughts. The backup offer might be the kick they need.
This has been really insightful. It's amazing how such a seemingly simple thing like a backup offer can affect so much in a real estate transaction.
It really shows how complex the McHenry market is and how important it is to think strategically.
And it shows how valuable it is to work with someone like Michael Linton, someone who understands these complexities and can guide both buyers and sellers to a successful outcome.
Absolutely. His expertise and knowledge of the McHenry market are invaluable.
So remember, McHenryAgent.com. That's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to learn more about the McHenry real estate market.
It's a great place to find articles, market trends. And of course, you can connect with Michael Linton directly through the site.
All right, let's move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll wrap things up with some key takeaways and some final thoughts. All right, so welcome back to our deep dive into backup offers. It's been a really fascinating discussion. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From the basics of backup offers to some really specific strategies for making them work.
Yeah. And we've really seen how even something as seemingly simple as a backup offer can have a big impact in a market as hot as McHenry's.
So let's try to sum things up. What are the key takeaways here? What should our listeners remember?
I think the biggest thing is that knowledge is power. The more you understand about backup offers, the better prepared you'll be to make smart decisions, whether you're buying or selling in McHenry.
Absolutely.
Right.
And Michael Linton's experience in this market is just so valuable.
Yeah, he's got decades of experience in McHenry, so his insights are really, really helpful. Whether it's about how to put together a winning offer or understanding what sellers are looking for, or just knowing the ins and outs of this specific market.
So to recap some of those strategies, when you're putting together a backup offer, think about more than just the price. What else can you offer that might make your offer stand out?
Right. So maybe you can be flexible with your closing date, maybe you can minimize some of those contingencies, or maybe you offer a little bit more earnest money just to show the seller how serious you are.
And don't forget about communication. Keeping everyone in the loop, both the seller and the first buyer. That can prevent a lot of problems down the road.
And for sellers, I think the takeaway is that a backup offer can be a really valuable tool. It gives you peace of mind, and it can even help speed up the whole process. But you have to make sure you're looking at the terms of each offer carefully. Choose the one that really works for you.
And whether you're buying or selling, working with a local expert like Michael Linton can make a huge difference. He really knows the McHenry market, and he understands how to use backup offers strategically.
Yeah, his website, McHenryAgent.com, is a great resource for anyone who's thinking about buying or selling in McHenry.
So to wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. In a competitive market like McHenry, a backup offer might be your secret weapon. It's a way to stay in the game, even when it seems like you've missed out.
Don't give up hope. A well-crafted backup offer might be just what you need to find that dream home in McHenry.
That's a fantastic point to end on. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you found this deep dive into backup offers informative and helpful.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better you'll be able to navigate the McHenry real estate market.
Until next time, happy house hunting